Okay, we're live. I'm finishing getting all set up for our live right now. Getting our candy melts ready. Okay, so I want to start by melting down, let's see, we're gonna start with some of our yellow melts because we're gonna be doing some cake pops that don't have sticks, but they have these cute little molds that we can do. So I'm gonna be doing 3 different versions of cake pops, but we're starting with the shells for these ones because they take a little while to set. Okay. And then in the meantime, I'm also getting some stuff set up for our cake pop ingredients. Stirring up some buttercream at the same time as melting my candy melts. Okay. And per usual, hasn't really melted very much yet. So we're gonna stick these back in. One here, I don't wanna make it too hot, so I'm gonna grab my cake. And we're checking on our yellow melts again. They're looking a little bit better, but still not quite melty, so we're gonna have to stick this back in there for a little bit. It's looking pretty good though, once I did a lot of stirring, so I think pop it back in there for like maybe 5 or 10 seconds, not very long at all. Okay, and then which one do I want? I think this one. Okay. At the same time, I'm also grabbing a, well, it's hard to see, a food brush because this is the yellow part we're going to be doing for our jack-o'-lanterns. And oh, cool. Yes, I love doing cake pops, especially because it's like a good use of any kind of cake scraps or extra stuff you have lying around. And they're a lot of fun. You can do a lot of different stuff with them. So I'm so glad that you're here. Like I said, for the yellow, we're going to be doing our little parts of the jack-o'-lantern because we want to obviously make them look really cutesy. Okay. So let's check on this. Okay, we look good. We're all melted, but it's a bit stiff. It can work for this, but we're gonna add a teeny tiny bit of vegetable oil, so I'm gonna grab that. Okay, we do not need much for this because we're not coating them with the stuff. We're not pouring it in or anything like that. We're painting it on. So we don't need much, but just the littlest bit can help it make it a little bit easier to work with. Just tiny bit. And with this, you can use vegetable oil, Easy Thin. I haven't tried that yet, but that's definitely, it's a product literally made to thin out candy melts. So yeah, I just use vegetable oil because it's on hand. Okay, we look a little bit better. It's easier to work with. It's not too thin though, or not too runny. So we're gonna paint our little faces. Okay, let's start with this guy. I'm just following the mold. As always, if you have any questions while I'm doing stuff, feel free to ask. I'm always happy to answer those. Be a little bit patient with me because sometimes I have to click on the chat to make it visible to me when I'm in this mode. And then we're gonna do, here I'll switch it so you can see the mouth a little bit better. So this one's kind of like a little bit scarier one. It's kind of fun. Of course, you could also do black for this part, but I always like the lit jack-o'-lanterns kind of look. Oh. Tapping the camera, okay. Let me see if there's any chat stuff. Okay, we are good. And just continuing to put a nice little layer. I got a little bit built up on my brush, so I just cleaned it off with a paper towel, and then I'm going back in for more. If it gets a little gunky, then make sure you clean off your tools ever so often. Sorry about that. Okay, and we are continuing. I'm really excited because I got this mold recently and I haven't had a chance to use it yet, so I figured the perfect time would be for this live. And we're only going to do one because it's going to take forever to do all the faces, so I'll definitely have to use this and share some more videos with it. Okay. And sometimes I like to go back and add a little bit more to make it a little bit thicker because it's harder for it to melt when we add our orange layer. Okay, we're almost done. And then we're gonna pop this in the freezer for just like a minute or two, just to make sure that these melts are really nice and firm when we start to add our warm orange. We wanna try to avoid melting this because then it's gonna start to blend and it's not gonna look as sharp as we want it to. Okay. I think we look pretty good. So here's our jack-o'-lantern. And we're gonna stick this, like I said, in the freezer to make sure that face doesn't melt. Okay. In the meantime, let's get our, no, I think let's get our orange melts melted. That should be a good one to do in the meantime. So we have our orange melts here. I'm gonna pop these in for about 30 seconds. Always make sure to do short increments, like I always say. Okay, and then I was also just mixing up some buttercream. This is a Swiss meringue buttercream, so it's not as sweet as like an American buttercream. So it's my favorite one to work with. It goes really well with everything and it doesn't add too much sweetness. It adds a lot of creaminess, basically. So we got our buttercream, and then while it's heating, let's show off some. This is some pumpkin cake scraps that I made yesterday. So if you want the recipe, this is on my channel. It's also on my food blog as well. But that's the cake we're working with today. And I'm just going to use some caramel today, so I need to get that out of the freezer. And we're checking on our orange melts. Okay, so obviously needs more time. I think we're gonna do 25 or 25 seconds, just so it's not a full 30, just to make sure it doesn't start to burn. Okay. And I'm also getting ready some black candy melts. And these are some candy melts that I have already melted, which is why they look kind of funny. These are actually already melted and also thinned with some vegetable oil. Let's set that aside. And they're looking better. I can tell that the heat is not going to be enough to melt what's remaining. So we're going to pop it in there for another 15-20 seconds. Let's do... Okay. Getting my bowl ready for our cake mixture, which I'll show in just a little bit. I want to finish that shell because I always put a glove on when doing my mixture. And let's check our progress. All right, that looks really good. Again, with this one, I want to thin it with just the tiniest bit of melts. It makes it easier to melt when you're like removing it. So we're going to do a double shell, but I want it to be a little bit easier to work with. when actually putting it in the molds. And mix that in there. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's grab our mold. And we're grabbing a different food brush. This is the kind I'm using for the orange. Also, I'm going to melt some chocolate milk so I can do the stem as well. Almost forgot about the stem. Okay, so let's do our orange. And I'm going to first do this by the yellow and just very gently get it around it. Just trying to fill in all those little gaps, but also not disturb the yellow. So we can keep those nice sharp lines and our design looking better. And also every so often we can kind of give it a little tap, make sure it's settling in all the little grooves and getting out any kind of air bubbles that might be there. And because the mold is cold, that rhymes. Because the mold is cold, it's gonna set the candy melts a little bit sooner. So that's why I tap it not just at the end, but sometimes while I'm working with it. Okay, looks like we're just about done with getting it around the faces. The face, let's tap it again. Again, just making sure everything kind of settles down. Oop, missed one little spot, so I'm gonna go back in there before I continue the rest of the mold up the sides. Once again, tap, tap, tap. And our face is now fully covered, so we're gonna continue up the sides, but I'm also gonna check on my chocolate melts for my stem. Okay, that is not melted enough. Yeah. Okay. Get out the spoon. Okay. Pop them back in. Okie doke. So we're continuing with our melts. Up the sides of the mold. And I like to make sure also that when I'm doing this, again, we're gonna tap it. Just want a nice base coat down just to see. I'll kind of run down the sides and help coat it a little bit more. But also you can see there's some sides where you can kind of see the mold through it, and we want to go back and fill in those places too, because even if we do a double coating then it's still gonna show through, especially if you have a darker cake filling. You don't wanna see it through there if you wanna make sure you keep your design nice and pristine. Actually, I might not need to do a double if I make this a little bit thicker. Okay, and I also want to grab an offset spatula. I like to use this just to kind of clean up the very top of it. Make sure everything's nice and sharp edges. Okay, let's add a little bit more. And like I said, I don't think I'll need to do a double layer on this if I have enough of these melts on here. Okay, I think I want to let this set and then add a little bit more melts if I need to. So I'm going to stick this in the freezer for just a couple minutes. We're also checking on our chocolate candy melts, or these are actually Ghirardelli melts. Show the difference. They're the dark chocolate Ghirardelli melts, and these are one of my preferred melts to use in terms of I like these ones, and then they're the white vanilla flavor. The dark chocolate and the white vanilla are my favorites to use because they have a really nice flavor. Sometimes candy melts in general don't have a great flavor to them, so I like to kind of sometimes use a combination of the two to actually get a better flavor. A little mix. Oh yeah, this is ready for our stem. Set that right there. And we're gonna check on our mold. That needs just a little bit more time. So in the meantime, we're gonna start to whip up our cake pop dough. So I always like to use a glove, specifically a nitrile glove. I just like to use that to mix up everything. It's a lot easier to mix with your hands, or you can do a mixer. I've seen people do that, but I just like to kind of use my hand to feel for the consistency, but I don't want to use my bare hand unless it's super duper duper clean. Okay, so we've got our bowl. And we're gonna add in some of our cake. If you weren't here when I said it earlier, I'm using some pumpkin cake that I made yesterday. Just kind of squish it into a container. Okay, let's add a little bit more. Definitely more than I need, but that's okay. Okay. And so what I like to do is kind of like mush it, break it up into pieces. Some people actually will take like hot cake dough or cake after it's come out of the oven and put it into like a stand mixer and have the cake pop literally just be like just the cake like this. But I really like to add some stuff to it. I think it tastes better that way personally, but it's definitely based on your personal preference. So we're gonna take some of our Swiss meringue buttercream and just add a dollop. It always seems like you need more buttercream, but you really don't need that much. So we're gonna start with this and see if we need more. So we're gonna mix that through. And make sure it's all combined. Okay, that looks good. And then I always like to take a little ball of cake in my hands and then kind of squeeze it and see how the consistency is. Seems a little bit on the soft side, so I'm gonna add just a little bit more cake. Again, you really don't need much buttercream at all. It always seems like you need more, and people make it way too thin, which makes it hard to shape and hard to coat, and it's just a whole thing. So you don't need as much as you think you do. I can't remember. I know I have a blog post on my website. I think it was with like some Halloween cake pops I made a couple years ago, where I give an approximate amount of like cake batter to, or cake, I call it batter, but cake to buttercream. And, but it's never the same. Like it depends on the cake, how moist the cake is itself, also the buttercream you're using, how much. So the measurements are not always accurate, but it's like an approximate. But usually I just eyeball. Okay, so I like the consistency. It feels a little bit firmer, but nice and soft at the same time. So I'm happy with the consistency, but we're gonna set this aside while we grab out our mold. Okay. Oh, and if anyone's curious, I found this mold at Joann's. They have a lot of good molds, and I cannot resist all the new ones that they get. Okay, let's grab a different. Let's go with you. Okay, so we're grabbing a different food brush from the other ones we've used so far to add our chocolate to the stem. Make sure our little stem part is all covered, and you can be pretty generous with the chocolate or the melt right here to try and get it completely kind of filled. Again, just trying to clean this up a little bit. And then we're gonna add a little bit more melts to the sides, because I know that you might be able to see through right there and down right there, and kind of like adding a little bit more along the sides. Down by the face, it's pretty thick already, so I'm not gonna try and add any extra right there. Okay. And because everything is nice and cold, these are gonna set very quickly. Okay, that looks good, I think. Try to get that last little bit coated. And as you can see, they're setting up very, very quickly. I think that should be good. Okay. So now we're going to add some of our, oh, there we go. Try and get a little bit down. You guys see it a little bit better. Okay. So we're gonna add some of our cake pop dough mixture, but I also have some caramel. It's a little bit too firm still, so I'm gonna pop that in the microwave for just a few seconds. And cheesecake. I love the taste of pumpkin and caramel is like a perfect fall combination. I also love pumpkin or apple and caramel. I mean, come on, both of them are just absolutely delicious, but there's just something about the combination of pumpkin and caramel that I always love for fall. So it's just perfect. And then the cheesecake adds a nice little extra creaminess in the center. It also adds like a nice little sour note to kind of add a level of kind of interest to our cake pop on the inside. So you can add like just make it a solid cake pop on the inside of this, but especially with the molded ones, you can have a lot of fun with adding different fillings and doing different stuff with it. I'm actually gonna get a piping bag for at least the cheesecake because it just makes it easier if you use a piping bag. Okay, and this is some baked cheesecake because I prefer baked cheesecake over like the no bake one. There's just something I like better about the flavor and the texture. I also find it to be less sweet than your typical no bake. Oops. Okay, and then we're also, if you keep your glove on, like I did, I do wash my hands between, you know, touching other things. Some people forget that just because they're wearing a glove, they can't go and touch all these different surfaces without washing their hands. So that's why I always say you can either do a gloved hands or very, very, very clean hands. But you do have to make sure you keep them clean in between as well. So we're gonna add a little bit of our cake pop dough and just press it right in there. And we're gonna try and kind of create like a little well. For our fillings as well. Okay, and my hand's messy. Like I said, I wash my hands constantly while in the kitchen. All right, and we have our cheesecake. Actually, I think I want to add my caramel first. So this is just a little bit of, usually I would pipe this in, but I think I'm just gonna add a little dollop. So this is a thin version of my cookie butter salted caramel. Okay, and then we're going to, come out. I think I cut this just a little bit too thin, so I'm gonna cut my cheesecake bag open a little bit more. Okay, and then we're gonna pipe just a nice Nice little thing across the top. And then sometimes I do this, sometimes I don't, but I'll take like the tiniest bit of cake pop dough and kind of squish it so it's kind of flat, just to kind of cover this. I probably slightly overfilled this, but I prefer overfilling to underfilling, honestly. Just to kind of protect the caramel in the cheesecake a little bit when we add more candy melts to completely seal this up. Oh, I apologize for my voice today. It's a little bit scratchy because my allergies are going all wonky. So frustrating. Because of where I live, it's like almost all year round for me for allergies, which is just such a delight. Okay. I think we're good. Yeah, we're all good with our stuff. I'm gonna add a little bit more of our chocolate to that stem. And of course, try to keep it clean. There we go. Okay, and then let's look at our orange melts. Actually, because I like the flavor better, we're gonna top this off on the back with chocolate melts. We're not gonna see it because it's completely covered in orange. So this is the back side of it. So we're gonna use some of those Ghirardelli dark chocolate melts. Like I said, I do like to try and use a combination of them because I do like the flavor better. And then if you don't overfill it like I did, you can use an offset spatula to kind of smooth out the back a little bit, but it's okay if it's a little bit over. Again, I prefer more filling. More filling than not enough is better. Okay, then we can give us a little tap. Try and let everything kind of settle. And then either right now or when we get it out, we can try and kind of clean up the sides just a little bit. I'm gonna call it good, and we're gonna stick this in the freezer to chill. Okay, and now we're getting out some popsicle sticks. Close up my cheesecake and caramel here. And we're also gonna get some parchment paper. Go like this. And like I said, we're getting some popsicle sticks. Okay. Oh, it's been a little while since I've checked the chat. Let me check that. Okay, cool, we're good. As always, if you have questions, let me know. Okay, so I'm gonna get a second glove for this part. And I think, do I want to get, let's just eyeball it today. Sometimes I use like a cookie scoop, like a small cookie scoop to roll them out, but we can eyeball it today, just to show you don't always need certain pieces of equipment for things. Okay, so we have our ball of, I call it cake pop dough. So we're gonna grab some out. That's too much. This looks pretty good. Okay, so about that size or so. And then we're going to, I put another glove on and we're rolling it. And kind of make sure it's nice and tight and compact. And then trying to roll it into a nice little ball. That looks good to me. They don't always have to be perfect. Okay, let's just roll a couple little quick balls, and then I'll also show you how I use a cookie cutter to make a mold for cake pops. That is very easy and kind of fun to do. I actually made like a massive cake pop using one of my bigger Christmas cutters last year, and I made it like an ugly sweater. That was a lot of fun. I should do that again. Okay, same size-ish. We're just kind of eyeballing it today. Like I said, it can be more precise if you want to use a cookie scoop, or if you want to weigh them out, that's cool too, but that's a lot of effort for cake pops, in my opinion. Hey, look at that. Those are pretty even. I'm happy with that. Okay, let's do like 2 more. Again, trying to get about the same amount of dough. A little bit too much. Roll, roll, roll. Guys, I'm doing a really good job of keeping these the same size without measuring. I'm so happy. I don't think I've ever had them this even before without having to use something. Okay, about the same. One more time. Cool. Okay, just to rinse this off for a sec. Shift you this way. And we take some, I'm just gonna do some of our chocolate melts, since those are still nice and melted. And we're gonna take our popsicle stick and we're gonna dip it, or a lollipop stick, I should say. And we're gonna dip in just a little bit of the chocolate melts. And then we're going to gently poke it into our ball, just like that. We're gonna do the same with all of them. We don't need too much. Perfect. And then I have seen someone do something where they kind of clean up, grab a butter knife for this part, where they kind of clean up these sides and they literally just go like this. So you don't have that little blob of chocolate. I usually don't mind the blob of chocolate, but if you want to clean it up, you can just do this. Just like that. I'll do 2 of them that way. Just kind of make it look a little bit smoother. Cool. Okay. I want to start to get these setting, so we're gonna stick these on a parchment paper laid sheet tray. Sorry for all the crinkly noises. Hold on. Try to get it so that this is going to stay in the tray. Okay. Just gently lift these. Okay, we're going to stick these in the fridge, not the freezer, because if... Actually, let me stick them in the fridge. I'll explain. Okay, so why do we want them in the fridge, not the freezer? It's because with doing cake pops, we're actually going to coat them after the fact, unlike the mold that we just used. The difference there is that the temperature difference between the really, really, really cold cake pop dough and the coating on the outside, that's, you know, the candy melts have to be nice and warm to be able to actually coat properly. And so that temperature difference can actually make the coating crack once it starts to set. So we want to avoid doing that because it's the drastic temperature difference essentially is what's making that happen. So we want to avoid that and just, you know, avoid that altogether. So use the fridge, not the freezer, when we're going to be coating the cake pops like this. Here is a little gravestone cookie cutter. It's a little baby cookie cutter. But I like to use cookie cutters sometimes for cake pop molds. So we're going to take some cake pop dough. We're holding it with one hand, making sure it's nice flat against the surface that we're working on. We're just going to try and press in as much as possible. Want it nice and compact. Add a little more dough. Okay, then we're going to take this. It's nice on both sides, and we're going to gently, you can also pop this probably in the fridge for a little bit, but I just sometimes want to pop it out immediately. And see, there's our cute little gravestone cookie pop. So I'm going to take another lollipop stick. Just as before. And we're going to dip the end just a little bit. And then poke it in the bottom. Just like that. And then we're also going to stick this in the fridge as well. Okay. In the meantime, we're going to start to melt some of our candy melts we'll be using for the cake pops. Yeah. We're good. Everything's good. Okay, let's melt. I have some of the black candy melts I set aside earlier. Like I said, these have already been melted before, and they already have some vegetable oil mixed into it, so it's a nice thin coating. And those were from last week's live with the cookie pops. So if you haven't seen that yet, make sure to go check it out for some fun cookie pop ideas for Halloween. I'm also thinking about working on some more cookie pop ideas and then doing kind of like a compilation maybe next week or the week before Halloween. It's so crazy. It feels like Halloween was so far away and now it's, you know, what, like 2.5 weeks away? Just crazy. Crazy how time flies. Okay. And we have our black melts, and these are melting faster than our other ones because it already has that vegetable oil mixed in. I'm gonna pop this in there for another 20 seconds, 15, 20 seconds, something like that. Okay. And then while that is heating, I'm gonna grab out our other one from the freezer so we can check them out because these should be all good to go now. So with these ones, oh wait, hold on. I have a question. Let me go to the comments or the chat section. Oh, thank you. I try and make sure I'm as detailed for you guys as possible. How is your name spelled most? Because I didn't know. Oh, it's spelled Carly with a C, so like Carly Simon. That's how it's spelled, with the C. Thank you for asking. We have our mold, and we're gonna gently kind of try to get our mold separated from our sides. And then once we see it's pretty much good to go, kind of gently start to separate it. We're trying to work with it. You do not want to accidentally break it at this point, because that would just be heart-wrenching. And, oop, I actually got a little bit of chocolate on his face. Okay, here he is. He looks so good. I'm really excited with how this turned out. I definitely need to make more in this mold, but I love, what do you guys think? I think he turned out pretty dandy. Let's set him off to the side for now. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be using this mold again. It's a lot of, they have a lot of fun shapes. Like there's a lot of different, every single one is a different design. So, oh wait, I see comments. Hold on. Get the comments back. Oh, thank you so much. Of course, I'm so excited that you guys are here today. Thank you so much for being here, asking questions. Thank you so much for commenting that it looks awesome. And yeah, I'm also thinking about possibly doing a class, a paid class over on Zoom for the holidays. So let me know in the comments, what kind of stuff would you guys want to do a class on? I'm kind of thinking maybe something easy like hot chocolate bombs, or maybe some cupcake decorating. Let me know if you guys have opinions on that, because it's something I've been wanting to start for a while, and I feel like the holiday season will be perfect for it. Okay, our coating is nice and smooth. And I'm gonna go check on our cake pops, but I'm also gonna be remelting our orange. They look pretty good. They're on the, a little bit on the softer side than what I usually like to do when coating. But we're getting towards the end of our time today. So let's see. I'm gonna keep the rest. Actually, I'm gonna take you and you. I'm gonna put the other ones back in the fridge while we're chatting. So yeah, because I use the fridge, not the freezer, for the actual like plain cookie pops themselves, I would usually keep them in there for a little bit longer than what I am right now, but like I said, we'll see how this goes. Okay. So we're gonna take a stick. I've wanted to try this for a while, so I'm gonna try with you guys. So I've seen where someone takes it and kind of makes the grooves of a pumpkin. The dough's still really soft. Just gonna make little grooves around it. Okay, I started to lose the grooves because I unintentionally pressed on these. That kind of looks kind of pumpkin-y, yeah? Yeah, see, it's still really, really soft. I might want to pop these in the freezer just to allow them to finish kind of setting. I think that's what I want to do. I'm gonna wait to try this one with that little technique I just did. Once it's set for a little bit in the freezer. Okie doke. In the meantime, we have our cute little pumpkin. And do you guys want to see the cross section of it? Want to see what it looks like when it's cut open? It's always so sad to destroy them, but they are kind of tasty. Oh, cool. Yes, I'm definitely cake rolls like Yule logs. That would be a good one. Yes, Jamie, I'd probably do Zoom, and the reason I would choose Zoom is because it would allow us to be able to, or it would allow me to be able to like pop you guys up on screen so I can, you know, help you during the process. I'm like, I love YouTube lives. I love doing this stuff with you guys. It's one of my favorite things of the week. But the only thing is that I can't, if you guys want to do it with me, I can't really like help you along. You know, it's with Zoom, it would be really cool to do it that way because I'd be able to actually pop you guys up on screen and be able to, you know, see how you guys are doing and help you with if certain issues are coming up or something, then that would be the benefit of going over on a Zoom thing like that. So I will let you guys know I'm in the process of kind of figuring all the logistics out of that, but you will be hearing something about that hopefully soon. Let's see. I'm going to make more of these, so I'm going to have to cut into this guy while our stuff sets. Okay. Just going to go right down the middle. That's what it looks like. That's a nice little cross section. It's a bit thicker than I usually like by the face, but like I said, it's because I wanted to make sure I didn't lose those details. But overall, I think it looks pretty good, huh? Would you guys eat this? Pumpkin, caramel, and cheesecake. What else? Well, that sets for just a couple more minutes. I wanted to tell you about, I have a savory Halloween video coming up. I'm just gonna put my hand over here because this is not the angle to switch the camera onto myself at the moment. But basically I have a Halloween savory video coming up really soon with 3 different savory ideas that are kind of fun. And that should be coming out very soon. I just have to finish the editing of it. So we're doing that one. And then what kind of stuff do you guys want to see? There's 2 more videos before Halloween after that, but I want to know what kind of stuff you want to see. Like I said, I might do that cookie pop compilation with multiple Halloween ideas. But yeah, I have ideas, but it's like too many ideas. So that's why I like to ask you guys what you want to see so that it helps me narrow it down. I'm one of those people that just like constantly has ideas, even when I'm like trying to get to sleep at night. It's like, oh, that would be cool to make too. Which I can sometimes drive myself a little bit crazy with it, but it's all good. We're gonna set this guy aside. I'm gonna have a little light. Oh my God. There is something about pumpkin, caramel, and cheesecake dishes. Oh, so good. Okay. Oh, I need a sip of water. So our pops are doing a little bit better. Let's take them off here. So let's try, this one's still a little bit soft, so I'm gonna pick them up from the sides. But with this one, now that it kind of set for a little bit longer, I wanted to try doing that technique again. Just kind of rolling it along the sides. And I've seen, there's this one person I follow on TikTok who does exclusively cake pops, and I saw this technique and I thought it was really cool and I wanted to try it. Can't think of her name off the top of my head though. Okay, let's check on our black melts. Set this over here. Okay, they're still nice and runny. So I'm gonna set the spoon aside, then we're gonna carefully dip. Make sure everything gets coated. And I'm gonna grab that pan again so we can set this in the fridge possibly. Again, I would usually probably let these ones, I'm not gonna shake off too much the excess because I want that excess on there. And then, here, let me move these so I can try and show you a little bit more what I'm doing right here. Okay, again, taking this other one, carefully coating all of it. Yeah, okay, it's starting to tear a little bit. So that was what happens if it's not set long enough by itself. But like I said, we're kind of going a little bit quicker right now. Okay, no biggie. And then we're going to, see, this is the tricky part. Okay. Probably gonna need help with the spoon to get this one out. Yeah, because see, this one doesn't want to it doesn't want to cooperate at all. So sometimes if that happens, I get the spoon out of there, I'll grab a fork like this. I have had this happen to me before, so shake it off a little bit, not too much of the excess because we want on the bottom, and then we're going to set it on our tray. Get off. This one is just not, that's why I made two, because sometimes they do not want to cooperate with you and the cake gets stuck. So that one is a dud. That one is just a little freebie. But this one over here is the one we're going to focus on. So see, I made sure there was extra because just like when we were doing our, the decorations I made for cupcake toppers and that kind of stuff, we're making a cauldron with this one. So that's why we have the extra little lip. Usually we don't want to see that, but with this one, it's totally fine. That's exactly what we want. And that's actually setting pretty nicely. And we're going to coat our pumpkins. Setting those to the side. Okay, we're gonna go a little bit thinner with our candy melts because it's kind of nice right now, but it needs just a little bit more. Little more vegetable oil should do the trick. Because you want to make the coating thin enough to where it will coat it nicely. but not run off of it and make it too thin, but also not too thick because it'll just kind of like glob up on it and not look very good. Okay, I'm gonna stick this in the microwave for another 10 seconds or so, just to kind of make sure it's nice and warm. I can feel that it started to slightly cool. Okay. Let's check our comments. Yeah, it is kind of, you guys kind of have to laugh at the ones that don't do well. Or the ones that just do not want to cooperate at all. Sometimes that does happen. Okay, we got our orange. Okay, we got our orange, then we're gonna set it on the same sheet pan that we have our cauldrons. Okay, and we're going to, I'm not even gonna attempt that one pumpkin that kept wanting to fall off of the stick because we know how that's gonna work out. But let's try this one. And sometimes if you don't wanna test the integrity of the popsicle stick at that time, you can use the spoon like I am to just gently coat it. Okay. I'm gonna try and get some of the excess off and then go over to the sheet pan. So I think, like I said, I'm trying that technique for the first time where I make the little grooves on the side. I think I need to go a little bit deeper when the cake pop dough is a little bit firmer. So now I know. And we're also going to melt some of our white Ghirardelli melts. I don't need too much. We're gonna pop those in the microwave. Because we're gonna do our coating for our gravestone. Cute little gravestone. Okay. I'm also gonna grab some green melts. Because that's gonna be for our topper for our cauldrons. Our cauldron. Okay, we don't need much at all, but while I'm checking on the white candy melts, we're gonna melt these two. We're giving this a little mix. We definitely need more time on it. We got a few more seconds left on the green. Okay, we're all good with the chat. Okay. And our green melts are starting to kind of melt a little bit, but they definitely need more time. These ones don't have any vegetable oil in them yet because I want them to be a little bit thicker. I don't want them to be too thin. Okay. There's like a couple little pieces in there that are trying to melt. Okay, I think that looks good. And then we're gonna add a little tiny bit of our black melts to get our gray color. We're gonna start with just a tiny bit, not too much. Okay, and I like the idea of kind of having a marble, so I'm not actually gonna mix it in all the way. So we're gonna take our gravestone and we're going to very carefully use the sides to help coat it carefully. That's pretty cool, huh? And very gently scrape off the bottom. If I'm laying this flat, which is why I'm doing that, but if I had like a thing to stick it into, like a piece of styrofoam or something, then we could probably scrape off a little bit less. But there's our gravestone. I have a couple little bubbles here that I'm going to use. This is a cake tester, but you can also use like a scribe tool. We're gonna poke the little bubbles and just try to get them to fill in. There we go. We're gonna set that on the sheet tray to firm up. And here is what our orange one looks like. You can see the grooves kind of work, but like I said, I need to just do it a little bit deeper to be able to get those grooves to come out better. Still a fun cake pop though. And obviously that can be for a pumpkin, a jack-o'-lantern, whatever you want to use it for. Okay, that looks good. We're also gonna get some green sprinkles. And also, just because I like the look of it lately, we're going to grab a bone sprinkle. Have these like little bloody bone sprinkles. And we're gonna finish off our witch's cauldron cake pop. Okay, so here's what it looks like. And see this, you can kind of see it, like the cake pop is kind of coming out a little bit. But what's perfect is that we're gonna be completely covering this top part. Remove this stuff. Okay, and then you can either use a piping bag or I'm just gonna use a spoon to do this part. I'm gonna get a little bit of our green melt on a spoon. And then we're going to, it's hard to do this with. Here, let me try to adjust the camera up a little bit. Okay, that's a little bit better. Kind of like let it a little bit pour over the side. But get it completely covered on top. Just like that. And then we're gonna add sprinkles before it sets. These sprinkles can be a pain in the butt because they can bounce everywhere, so try to not let too many fall by the wayside. Got a little bit pouring off the back, but that's okay. Okay, and then we're gonna top before the candy melt set. We're gonna top it with our little bone sprinkle. So here, go back up a little bit. There is our cauldron cake pop. A little bit down further than I would like. Usually I like to go keep it up about, a third or halfway, but I think it still looks cute. It still looks like a little cauldron. So with this one, we just have to let it set. Again, if you have a piece of styrofoam that you can stick it into, that works perfectly fine. And then let's see if our gravestone hasn't set just yet. So I'm gonna set that in the fridge. Okay, and once that's set, I'll show it to you guys really quick, and that'll be the end of our live for today. If you have any questions, let me know now. Any recommendations on things that you would like to see coming up before Halloween ends would be great. I love to hear the recommendations. Let's check the chat while we wait for that. Okay, we're all caught up. And I'm also going to try and get rid of some of these these are called green nonpareil sprinkles, and I have found some of them days later because in my kitchen, because they just bounced into this weird obscure place, and I literally thought that I had found all of them, and then there's another one or two that surprised me. So that's the one downside to using them, but they look really pretty, so that's why I still use them. If you do it on like a sheet tray, that would kind of help ensure that not too many can bounce off of your counter or across your counter. I just want to make sure I pick them all up now. Also because I want that gravestone to set. Next week I will have another poll about what is going to be our live. Probably going to do one of the options that was voted for but was not as popular as today's topic. So probably either some Halloween bark, like where I take some chocolate candy melts and do some fun stuff with it. I have an idea for body part bark because they have these cool body part gummies. So that's an option, as well as like some Halloween dessert popcorn that would be perfect for, like a scary movie night for Halloween. Okay, our gravestone is set. And here is our gravestone. So I could have gone a little bit darker. I just really like the look of this marbled effect. So I decided to dip it in that. What do you guys think? I like how it turned out. I see the back's a little bit exposed there, so I'd probably add a little bit more candy melts to the back just to make sure that it's completely covered. But yeah. So that's it for today. We have our cut into pumpkin, and then we have our cute little cauldron here. If I hold it too close, you can't see it. Okay, we have our cauldron. Like I said, I probably added a little bit too much to the sides, but it's all good. Bubbling cauldrons go crazy. And then our gravestone, using our cookie cutter, our little baby cookie cutter, for our mold for this. So you can definitely do bigger ones. I just think that obviously the smaller ones are a little bit closer to a typical cake pop size, but they're a lot of fun to make different shapes without having to buy a whole bunch of molds. So, because you can also multitask with those or use them for multiple things and be able to make cookies, obviously. So that is it for today. Thank you guys so much for joining. You see the chat just to make sure I didn't miss any questions. We look like we're good. Awesome. Okay. Thank you guys so much for being here today. I can't wait to see you guys next week for the next live. And like I said, there's going to be a poll voting on what we're going to do. So make sure to keep an eye out for that soon. And we got some more fun videos coming up. Thank you so much and have a great weekend.